the chances of the general public being targeted like this, or the don't go out of your house type of warning, I don't do that. But in this case, we are starting to see a real threat. And I do security consulting.
That's right.
And my mind goes to parades and events, public events, where there's a lot of people gathered around. In the Charlie Kirk rally, that shooter could have targeted people in the audience and taken out quite a few people, unfortunately. So yes, this is a clear and present danger right now. And any event, I think, at any event that's being planned right now, you got to account for the rooftops and there has to be all kinds of precautions that you wouldn't take ordinarily unless it was something like a presidential visit where you have Secret Service and you would expect to see that kind of security, or the Super Bowl. But now we're in a situation where we've got this viral epidemic of snipers, ideologically motivated, and I think motivated and indoctrinated by very irresponsible people in the public eye, who have nothing else in their game except to go out there and be extreme to get themselves on the media and get attention.
What he called a clear and present danger. After two violent episodes this month shook the nation. The sniper assassination of conservative activist Charlie Kirk on September 10, 2025, and a rooftop attack on a Dallas ICE facility on September 24, 2025. Swecker joined Fox and Friends to connect the dots between those incidents, arguing that the pattern matters more than isolated headlines. He said law enforcement sources he's spoken with are frustrated that online rhetoric and small indicators often go unreported or are not acted upon until tragedy forces a response. Those little things, social posts, manifestos, travel patterns, suspicious purchases, people practicing in remote locations, he warned, can add up into a plan if ignored. Experts say Swecker's message is twofold. First, investigators need better ways to see precursors without trampling civil liberties, and second, communities, employers and social platforms must treat early reporting seriously. In the Kirk case, federal agents have focused on the suspect's digital footprint and travel, saying those leads will be a very important part of the prosecution. The line between private expression and preparatory conduct is often where prevention can happen. The Dallas attack, which authorities now say was carried out by a 29-year-old who fired from a rooftop and later died by suicide, left one detainee dead and two others critically injured. Investigators found an unused round marked anti-ICE, and federal officials are treating the shooting as targeted political violence while continuing to probe motive and any outside affiliations. The Department of Homeland Security issued an immediate statement calling the assault a targeted attack and ordered heightened security at similar facilities. Put together, the assassination at a Utah university and the Dallas shooting create a troubling pattern that Swecker says cannot be dismissed as coincidence. He urged viewers and officials to pay attention to precursors he says recur across multiple cases: escalation of partisan language into dehumanizing rhetoric, online posts that fantasize about violence, and small logistical signs, surveillance of venues, acquiring long-range weapons, scouting vantage points, that often precede sniper-style attacks. Swecker cautioned that those signs are not proof of guilt on their own, but they are red flags that deserve prompt, proportionate follow-up by law enforcement and, when appropriate, by social platforms and community leaders. Civil liberties advocates and some legal experts push back on broad surveillance or overbroad monitoring, arguing the risk of abuse and chilling effects on speech. Yet most of those same advocates also concede that a calibrated approach, community reporting mechanisms, strengthened threat assessment teams, clearer thresholds for temporary intervention, could reduce risk without wholesale erosion of rights. Swecker's public comments are aimed at striking that balance. He is calling for smarter focus, not mass suspicion. Investigators in both cases are emphasizing different leads. In the Kirk assassination, prosecutors have said the accused's digital footprint and movements will be central to the case, and that the mental health evaluation has been completed while the suspect remains in special housing as the legal process moves forward. In Dallas, authorities are examining the shooter's background, his vehicle and personal effects, and possible ideological statements scrawled on ammunition, all elements that can point to motive but do not always reveal organizational ties. Officials have so far found no confirmed link tying the Dallas shooter to an organized domestic extremist group. Swecker also urged elected leaders and the media to consider the tone of public discourse. He said heated rhetoric, when amplified by influential voices or social media echo chambers, can normalize violence to people who are isolated or already unstable. That does not mean political speech is criminal, he stressed, but he argued there is a responsibility to avoid dehumanizing language that could act as permissive fuel for someone primed to act. Law enforcement faces practical constraints. Resources are limited, legal standards for intervention are high, and the sheer volume of online content makes predictive policing a fraught proposition. Swecker suggested investing in threat assessment units modeled on those used after mass shootings and workplace violence incidents, teams that bring together mental health professionals, law enforcement, and community authorities to triage reports and decide who needs outreach, who needs monitoring, and who can be resolved with de-escalation. Several cities and campuses have reported success with these multidisciplinary teams in reducing targeted attacks. For citizens, Swecker's appeal was simple. Don't shrug off behavior that seems tiny or eccentric if it includes explicit or implicit threats, focused surveillance of people or venues, or procurement of weapons with clear intent. Report what you see to authorities, preserve evidence like messages or images, and cooperate with investigators. He warned against sensationalizing or rushing to public accusation, but urged seriousness when multiple indicators point toward preparation for violence. What remains clear is that investigators are piecing together timelines, digital trails, and physical evidence in both the Utah and Dallas cases. Prosecutors will pursue charges where the law supports them, and federal agencies are reviewing whether broader policy changes, from secure facility perimeters to improved information sharing between agencies and platforms, are needed. The DHS statement emphasized a coordinated federal response to targeted attacks on immigration facilities. Congress and the courts will likely be part of the next phase of that debate. As Swecker put it on air, red flags are only useful if someone notices them and acts. The challenge, he said, is building systems that allow early, lawful intervention while protecting the civil liberties that are fundamental to a free society. Until that balance improves, he warned, we risk repeating the same cycle: tragedy, investigation, outrage, and then too little prevention.